Today, we're heading to Boyds, Cove, Newfoundland and Labrador. I grew up in Appleton. This is where I was exposed to so much of the traditional music that I know and love today. I'm Aaron Collis, and I play with the band Rum Ragged. For over a decade now, we've been collecting songs and tunes from around Newfoundland and Labrador that have been passed from person to person for generations. Now we're visiting some of the communities where we learn the music and some of the singers and players who help keep it alive. There's so much more to hear. Boyds Cove, I guess, in a lot of ways, is a pretty typical outport community. We're in Notre Dame Bay on the northeast coast of Newfoundland. And like a lot of small towns in the province, there's maybe a dwindling population, but there's a strong history of traditional music in this area that's held on over the years. Growing up, I was lucky enough to learn a lot of music from a few of the older singers and players from the area. So this is where my grandfather grew up. And here it's interesting because we're close to the water, but I think this was historically a place where people from Fogo used to come and cut wood when it wasn't the fishing season. It started off as small summer homes and stuff, and then people eventually settled and stayed here. When a robin with a red breast. It's a very old house. We're here, it's over 100 years old. I've been coming up here for ages now, just on long weekends or holidays. I'd come up at a young age and just loved it up here from day one. Yeah. Long ago, by the brookside, shady brookside, where the water lilies grow, by the brookside. So Tom is my stepfather's cousin, first cousin. I grew up just calling him Uncle Tom. He took a particular interest in this house and keeping it up and making sure it didn't, there wasn't anyone living here for ages, but he'd make regular visits and, put on a coat of paint or fix the deck or whatever.
So my grandfather, Will Joe Donahue, and his wife, my grandmother, Bridget, this was their matrimonial home. So it was built around 1922. They married in 24, so the house would have been finished by then. Anyway, this house, I guess to put it in a nutshell, it was the center of the community. So if there was such a thing as a community hall before they built one, this was it. So my grandfather, Will Joe, he ran the local passenger boat. And that landed right here on the dock that we're just putting the rebuilding again. And so anybody that was coming to the community, whether that was a minister, a priest, anybody that was coming to the community, came through this house. So this was kind of the bus station, the train stop, all in one. So everybody came to here, and grandmother loved it. But with that, the people that were here were very social, right? Like my father, right? Your grandfather, yeah. And my other two uncles, they were, I guess, the storytellers, the music place. This was where anything that happened, people came here for that, right? So yeah, so in the evening, it'd be the focal point. If music happened, if there was a game of cards, this was the place everybody came for that, right? And I can remember as a kid coming here, those are my fondest memories of just the music of the house, right? This kitchen would have 30 people in it. And there'd be 10 waiting outside, waiting for somebody to come out so they could get in, right? So this was the focal point of the whole community. So you'd be wait here. There was people married in this house. Some of the first political people, before Newfoundland joined Confederation, they would come to here. So Joey Smallwood was here, Frank Moore's former premiers and such, and they'd come and they'd stay here. This was the hotel of the community, I guess, right?
I think I first saw someone playing an accordion at a wedding reception in Glenwood, and there was also a guy in Glenwood named Ray Head who I'd see playing every once in a while if there was a bit of music for Glenwood Day or something like that. But it was pretty seldom I'd see anyone playing accordion at that time, and I never really had a chance to try one out until I was visiting my great aunt Sadie in the Codroy Valley with my grandparents one time, and she had an old kind of a toy accordion in the house that was ordered from the Eaton's catalogue. And she didn't play or anything, but she still had the accordion in the house. And I was fooling around with that while Aunt Sadie and Nan and Pop were having a cup of tea and a chat. And after a couple hours, I had a bit of a tune on it. The makings of a tune, anyways. And I was a paper boy at the time. And after that, I just saved up my money from the newspapers until I had enough for an accordion. Just learn by ear kind of thing. There was no teachers as such for putting accordion. And when I started coming out here, it was more like, it was just such an open community that, people would suggest to me, like, oh, why don't you go up and see Uncle Bren Newman up the road, he plays accordion. And so I just kind of went up, and I was probably 11 or 12, and I was up sitting down with this guy who was in his late 80s probably, just having a yarn and a cup of tea and trying to learn some tunes from him. I was so fresh, like, I was such a beginner on the instrument that I didn't know that a lot of the tunes he was playing me were, you know, so rare and just unknown generally. But he was so willing to try to show me and play me all these tunes. And he kind of just got the sense, I think he just knew why I was there, and he was getting something out of it as well. And but it wasn't until I moved to St. John's and started playing at some of the sessions around town that I realised a lot of these tunes, no one else knew them at all, right? So then I started really paying attention when I went to visit Bryn, and I started recording them on tapes, and I started, you know, asking more about where he learned the tunes. Because it is, you know, once those tunes are gone, they're gone, and as long as someone knows them, it's alive, right?
I'm Myles Hodder. I'm 30 years old, from Boyds, Cove, accordion player.
I've known you ever since I was coming up here.
Yeah.
And I never ever asked you how you got into the accordion, or if you had anyone in your family that played.
Nobody in the immediate family. There was my great-great-grandmother on mom's side and my great-uncle on dad's side.
Okay.
But I never ever spent no time with any of them. Right. But Nan and Pop raised me. So they was all into the Newfoundland music and all the kitchen parties and everything, and that's all they ever listened to. So that's all I ever listened to.
Right on.
So when I was 15 years old, Nan and Pop was going into St. John's, and Nan asked me what I wanted brought home. So I told her just for the fun of it, I said I'd like to have an accordion. I said I'd like to learn how to play it, and that's all Nan wanted to hear. So anyway, when they came home 4 or 5 days later, when they came back, they come in the house with this big box. So I took out the accordion, and the first song I learned how to play was Grey Foggy Day.
Okay.
I sat down on the chair, and I was at the kitchen table for 13 hours before I left. Every song that I wanted to play, I used to get Nan to sing it or hum the tune of it, and I'd pick it up, and that's how I learned how to play the accordion.
It was all by ear. Yeah.
All by ear, yeah.
I suppose that's the same way with me. Like, there was no one to teach you, or there's no.
No.
And before there was YouTube videos up of how to play or anything.
Mm-hmm. Listen to the cassette tape, and then you had to rewind it and listen to it again.
Try it 100 times.
Yeah. There's a great bit of fun. Brings everybody together. And
that's the real party instrument up this way, isn't it? Like, it's just, you know, some places they likes the fiddle, but up here is
up here there's all accordion.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go is where's the accordion? Where's the accordion? But you know, going places with Nan and Pop, and or even Mom or Dad, if you went somewhere and someone had an accordion out, well, that's where your eyes went to, was to whoever was playing the instrument, right? And then growing up with Nan and Pop and listening to the accordion all the time on the CDs or the tapes or whatever, and I just got interested in it. I wanted to learn how to play it, and I was determined to learn how to play it.
Same with me. I was just obsessed, you know, first half.
Yeah.
And I saved up enough money to get me my own accordion, and then I was just trying to learn every tune I could find. Anything I heard, I had to play it 100 times. I usually just rewind tapes.
Yeah.
With a lot of the people here being loggers, a lot of music got transmitted in the logging camps. So they could have been from other communities, and at the end of the day, they'd play a few songs, and a lot of the music just got spread around that way as well. Boyds Cove was probably a brand new community as such when people started logging here. So there's a chance there weren't many Boyds Cove songs then, so a lot of it was from Fogo or the surrounding communities, and it just became a great melting pot, I think, of tunes and songs, yeah. So I learned a lot of songs and tunes from my grandfather and from Bryn up the road, and a gentleman named Mick Pierce who lived next door. But there was also a lot of tapes cassette tapes of parties that happened in this house. So there's hours and hours of just people singing and taking turns and accordion players. And so I learned a lot of songs too from people I never met, but they were just on these tapes.
We had some of the first record, like a cassette recorder. Nobody ever had that. I mean, it was like that's what the rich kids had. No, we weren't no rich kids, but we had a little tabletop recorder, and we'd sit under the table, too young to do anything else, but we recorded.
Yeah.
So some of the tapes that you got are the stuff that me and your dad recorded,
for
sitting
sure.
under a kitchen table down at Leo Pierce's house.
And a lot of those songs probably wouldn't be around if you didn't.
And for me, they were very important because I could go back and listen to what I heard last week, which was a miracle to be able to record something, right? But I remember recording your grandfather, my father, Tom Brett. And you do a tune now by Tom Brett that I'm sure you got off of one of those cassettes.
And he was just one of those guys who kind of passed through every now and then. And
But those cassettes, I can remember, they were treasures to me, but for me, owning that stuff is no good unless I can share it with people.
Yeah.
And for you to take the interest in those tapes and cassettes, you haven't got those. Damn right I got those.
Yeah.
And the look in your eyes when I gave you those cassettes, it was like finding a buried treasure.
Well,
right?
it is because like those guys aren't even around anymore, and there's so much music hidden in throughout the hours of that party or whatever. That,
Yeah. And like the hard times, the ones
exactly.
that you did. So my dad and Uncle Leo wrote that.
Right.
And Mark was just commenting on it. It said it's amazing the stuff that's in it tells
so
the
much.
story so well.
And
right?
it's funny too at the same time. It's so topical, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like I sung that at a song workshop with Anita Best and Jim Payne at Mon there a few months ago.
Yeah.
People were cracking up at it,
But it was.
They're clever,
It was the humor and the entertainment all in one, right? Yeah.
We were all hugged by old man depression, and often his whiskers were off. The old folks will say that I'm foolish to let the cat out of the bag, but the young folks don't know how to struggle when I'm for each bite in each rag. Oh, girls and no snowbirds for winter.
Another one of my favorites that your father did was Those White Owls. And we
Yes.
recorded that on the first record.
Yeah.
And that's a hit, man. Everyone loves that song. It's as funny as it is.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's about Cape Friels, right?
Yeah.
But that's the things I remember Dad knew.
Friends, you know, and the reason what goes out of fray. It's also white owls came our way. You'd never seen the likes before. They'd pitch on your cellar down by the door. Soon as they land down on a nap, you'd grab your gun and straddle your cat.
In Dad's later years, before he passed, to play him those tapes, he'd cry.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I can only
he
imagine.
didn't even know I had a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
But I'd play it back for him, right? Yeah.
I visited your father a few times in town,
That's right.
but only for short little visits, so you
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
get all the music.
But you'd come with your accordion,
Yeah.
and you'd play his,
Yeah.
and then he'd play one for you. But that meant more to him, Aaron, than honest to God. Or if I'm going to say if Bono had to show up and do something for me, he wouldn't have been as happy, right?
But I had a bunch of tunes from Brain up the road that I didn't know the titles to, and I played them for your father, and he knew every one, and
Right.
he just told me.
Well,
what
that's
they're
where
called.
Dad
Yeah.
learned them from Brain, and Brain
Yeah.
learned them from Aunt Ann Newman up on the hill, right? Yeah. Like in Dad's song there on the wall. This is a poem that my dad wrote about Boyds Cove right here. So yeah, so that's Dad's memory of Boyds Cove right there. So, hey, let me say it for you anyway. But this he wrote this and put the words to it to his small town here. And it's called There's a Place That's Fair to Me Is Dear in the Bay of Notre Dame. Boyd's Cove is a spot on the map just a dot that has never been noted for fame. It's there I was born on an old Christmas morn where I spent my boyhood days, but it's up to me now to get used to somehow those typical towny ways. How can a fella like me, who lived by the sea, where ropes and traps and twines, forget all those ways and my boyhood days, although I worked hard sometimes. When the day's work was done, we had lots of fun, as all of us outporters do. We would dance and sing songs, and where I belong, we all like to drink a home brew. At the end of the day, the townfolk would say, there's a big movie on tonight, or there's a dance at the Colony Club, where the orchestra plays with delight. But boys, give me the school, with Aunt Ann on a stool, and an old accordion patched on the ribs, and all round the shore, you can hear the boys roar, as they dance to them old-fashioned chicks.
Whenever I find a new tune, it's always a big surprise, really, because if you're dealing with traditional music, you kind of think of it as a finite, unrenewable resource almost. So it's always a bit of joy to realize it's not all done yet. You know what I mean? It's kind of there's still lots to learn, and there's still lots to be shared. And I find, you know, as someone who just started playing for fun and just trying to learn as many things as I could, I'm still like that now. So it's always nice to find something I haven't heard and to get to learn and get to share it with other people.
They come fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers and other relations wherever you may be. Come neighbours and friends, both one and the other attend, and I'll tell you how happy are we. My maxim's a true one and somewhat a new one, and those that will follow it seldom will fade. The young one, the old one, the coward, the brave one, we're all feeling snug or a mug of old ale. The man who is rich and his money's no trouble, don't let him perplex him what with it to do. Assist those in want, either single or double, and gain a good name though it be from a few. Now might keep an eye for yourself and another, then you might enjoy yourself telling the tale of the good you have done for yourself and some other, and still kept enough for a mug of old ale.